Ole Miss will blast Michigan State in the Sweet 16.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, the most watched Ole Miss podcast out there. I'm your host, Steven Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media and a former Ole Miss staff member as well. Today on the show, we dive into the excitement that's sweeping the Ole Miss fan base this week, a Sweet 16 matchup with the Michigan State Spartans. We are joined by Matt Sheehan of Locked On Spartans to hear his perspective on Friday night showdown. This is a game that has every single upset ingredient, but like every team at this level, they're all good enough to beat you. You have to play very well to make it into the Elite Eight. Remember, we're free and available on all the podcast apps and on YouTube. And thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen every day. And a special hello to the insiders and everydayers who make this show what it is. Don't forget to find a second listen on the network. Chris Gordy at Locked On SEC or Corey Burton at Locked On Vandy offer even more perspectives on college football, the SEC, and all things Ole Miss, really, even. So we'll see how that goes. Now, the crazy thing in the world is, at least for this week, Ole Miss has become a basketball school, if you want to look by my YouTube numbers. They're paying attention to basketball. They're very excited. Had somebody on my Discord mention that he dropped $4,000 on tickets to the Ole Miss Michigan State game. Ole Miss fans are very fired up, and if they can, they want to take over Atlanta. There's going to be potentially powder blue everywhere for that. Now, I do think that Ole Miss fans need to wear powder blue at the game. You have the orange of Auburn. You'll have the yellow of Michigan. You'll have the green of Michigan State. I think that powder blue would be a nice differentiator as well. The red would work as well, kind of a little bit. It kind of might blend in with the orange a little bit in the stadium. The powder blue, though, would stand completely apart. Listen, Ole Miss is a team. They have 5 scorers that average in double figures. We looked on FanDuel in a video that is going to air tonight with Michael Katz to where Ole Miss winning and Sean Padula scoring 25-plus points is kind of the best scenario for either of the teams if a player scores 25-plus points. They have props for everything. If you check out the FanDuel sports book, they have tons of props of what you can bet on this game. Ole Miss is currently a 3.5-point underdog to the Michigan State Spartans, and this is without many people betting on the Rebels at all. That line is kind of staying solid. We talk about that a little bit tonight as well. It kind of feels like a sucker bet a little bit. They're just begging Michigan State fans to continue betting on the Spartans, but they think that Ole Miss might win that game outright. We'll see. Ole Miss is the hottest team potentially in the tournament right now. They had a 25-point lead against Iowa State and North Carolina in the first 2 rounds. They are going to be ready to go. Now, Michigan State fans are in my comments all the time talking about Michigan State's defense, and they are absolutely correct. They are talking about Michigan State's physicality, and yes, they're absolutely correct. And the way that both of these two teams play defense, and they might do it in different ways, but the way they play defense means that this game has major rock fight capability. This might be an underplay, honestly, for the score, though. I think the over-under is at 143.5 points. I think this game has 59-53 scoreline, final, written all over it. We'll see. Ole Miss is shooting the ball very well, and if that continues, if Ole Miss shoots like they did against North Carolina and Iowa State, Michigan State does not have much of a chance in this game, honestly. If Ole Miss kind of regresses to the mean of what they have done over the course of the season, it's going to be a fight, especially with the intensity that both of these teams have on defense. The rebounding, the size of Michigan State's give me concerns. That literally gives me concerns. But Ole Miss can, if they can turn over Michigan State and kind of even that out in that formula that is an Ole Miss basketball formula, they might be able to overcome those rebounds. So we go into Thunderdome once again with Matt Sheehan of Locked On Spartans to learn all about this game. Let's go. We are going into Thunderdome. Matt Sheehan from Locked On Spartans Steven Willis, Locked On Ole Miss. I want to say thank you to all the Michigan State fans that have been making my videos very successful this week. Thank you very much for that. Matt, I'm just going to assume that you didn't send them down there, but listen to this. This is funny. I understand that people are passionate about their teams. I get that. I understand.
A little bit. Yeah.
You think they can do it, but people in my comments telling me that Ole Miss has not seen a team as good as Michigan State.
Aggressive. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ole Miss is not going to be able to match up with a defensive team like Michigan State.
Okay.
Ole Miss is not going to be able to handle the depth of Michigan State. And I was like, are you aware that Ole Miss beat Alabama, Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas twice, and BYU? I mean, are you guys sure that you understand what's going on here?
Mm-hmm. There's two paths you could have to March Madness fandom. It is just being so blindly defiant and confident in your team that you will convince yourself that they can beat the Golden State Warriors, or you could just constantly live in a state of worry and anxiety, and that's the road that I travel down, Steven. It's not the healthiest road, but that's where I'm at right now because, well, it's awesome being a Michigan State fan. We've been doing this tournament for 27 straight years, but you also see some SHI believe in 27 years in the tournament. You know that nothing is a given. And while there is reason for Michigan State to be confident in this game, of course, like, yes, we do have a really strong defense, stronger than any in the SEC. I'm just going to go ahead and just stop just a little short of that. Are we a deep team? Absolutely. Are we as deep as like an Auburn team? I don't know about that. But look, there's many good things going on for Michigan State, but yeah, we're going against a team that is beyond battle tested, playing in the SEC, because it was fun to start the tournament, you know, seeing the Oklahomas of the world go down and thinking, overrated basketball conference. And then shucks, here you guys are with a really good showing in the Sweet 16. It turns out that, no, you guys were actually a good conference all along. So it's been a good Michigan State team. Are they going to be as good as top flight SEC schools? Stay tuned to find out. It's going to be a good one on Friday night.
It's like we said off air. If you are in the Sweet 16, you're good enough to beat the team you're playing. There are no easy wins. There's no, honestly, and this is not an insult to mid-majors, there's no West Coast Conference team in this tournament.
Right. Yeah.
There's no Ohio Valley that just made it through. Mm-hmm. These are 4 power conference, battle-tested conference teams that are lined up. And it makes sense that this is the most highest rated NCAA tournament in 32 years because of that.
I don't know if I want it every single year where you don't get like a St. Peter story or a Fairleigh Dickinson story or anything like that. But every once in a while, just having heavyweights only make it to the Sweet 16, it makes for great basketball. Because usually in, tournaments past, okay, you want to see some first round upsets, but by the time the second weekend rolls around, no disrespect to all the mid-major schools out there, but I'm all set seeing like, what would it be, like a 13 seed play? I don't know what it would be, like a 2 seed, something like that. I'm all good. Like, this is going to be just banger after banger after banger of basketball games on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, which is like what we want in life. We just want to be entertained with high-level hoops, and this is what we're going to get, especially out of our 2 teams, Steven. It's nice.
Yeah, it should be fun. It's like I told somebody today, it's like, hey, we play apparently high-level basketball now, so that's cool. We're a basketball school.
I know.
Yeah, seriously. This is like our, 12th NCAA tournament game.
Wow.
In basketball history, yeah.
Sure.
And this is the second time only that Ole Miss has ever made it to the Sweet 16, which is our longest run ever.
Man.
So what we have here is a blue blood, because Michigan State is a blue blood. We've all seen the YouTube videos of Magic Johnson and all of that going all the way through Mateen Cleaves. We all seen that. Whenever you try to find Ole Miss basketball videos on YouTube, a little bit of a different story. That's Bryce Drew and not much else.
Right. It's a good callback right there. No, but I mean, when you get Chris Beard as a coach, he could make me and my 4 closest friends that are all below 6 feet tall a really competitive basketball team. And when you guys have experienced older players like you do down in Ole Miss, well, of course, showing up to the Sweet 16, not that big of a surprise. It's actually one of the few Sweet 16 teams that I got correct on my brackets. So I went about 4 of 16, but yeah, got the Rebels in mind. So thanks, Chris Beard, for that. Appreciate that.
Yeah, and immediately after the game, when Tom Izzo was basically informed of who he was going to play, his instinct, his reaction immediate when he found out that he was playing Chris Beard was not happy.
It was PTSD a little bit from 2019. Yeah, the Final Four against Texas Tech. And it's funny. I don't know if the coaching staff feels this way. I don't know if other fans feel this way. But to me, That game feels like it happened 2 seasons ago, not 6.
Mm-hmm.
So this is still fresh in the mind of all of the State fans. And obviously, just like I said, and just like we've all seen the last few weeks here, Chris Beard still just a fine coach in the game of basketball.
Hey, thanks again for tuning in to this crossover episode of Locked On Spartans and Locked On Ole Miss. I'm Steven Willis. He's Matt Sheehan. When we come back, we're going to start getting into the nuts and bolts of this matchup and start talking about what is going to happen Friday night. Stick around. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO giving you complete visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch a couple of weeks ago, I actually realized fairly quickly how much money I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save a lot more money. Managing money with my wife has gotten smoother as well. I can see everything online that happens in all the numerous accounts that we have, both shared and personal. We can set goals and we're able to stay on the same page because we're looking at the same screen. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, all one word, at monarchmoney.com for $50 off your first year. That's right, half off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for half off your first year. We are back. Crossover edition. Locked On Ole Miss, Locked On Spartans. Matt Sheehan, Steve Willis. This game is going to be so much fun because I love defensive basketball. And having Chris Beard as a coach, that makes you're in a good position if you like. Tom Izzo, they've played good defense for years, decades even. That's what they do at Michigan State. So, Matt, I was talking about you before we went on. I think this game has a chance to be a major league rock fight to where the final score is something like 59-55, and everybody's like going, what just happened? And it's going to come down to 1 or 2 steals, turnovers by Ole Miss, or rebounds by Michigan State. That is going to be the difference in this ballgame.
I could not agree with you anymore. It is going to be a hearkening back to like mid-2000s Big Ten basketball, and Michigan State fans know what I'm talking about. And well, Ole Miss fans are about to find out this Friday if this game goes according to what we think is going to happen. Because yes, both teams, they flex their defensive muscle, and I think Ole Miss is really going to try to get Michigan State in some half-court offense. They might not even attempt a single offensive rebound the entire game, just getting back on defense to set up that picket fence to limit Michigan State in transition. So when Michigan State is pigeonholed in a half-court offense, they can have their issues. Also, on the contrary, Michigan State, just like I said, really strong defensively, specifically on that perimeter. So, yeah, this is going to be a race to 50, 55 points here. There's going to be blood all over the court. Every single fan that's not a Spartan or a Rebel fan is going to say, oh, my God, turn this game off right now. This is disgusting. But real ball knowers like us will know this is how the game is played like men, Steven. I cannot wait for it. It's going to be nasty and grimy. Oh, man, bring me back to those days.
Oh, it's going to be amazing. Absolutely amazing. I can't wait. And this is the advantage that I think Ole Miss has in this game, okay? This is the singular advantage. In the no-middle defense that Chris Beard runs, they're very good defensively. They clog up the middle. They want you to kick out. The weak spot in that defense is the corner three-point shot. Mm-hmm. Well, in this tournament, the rims appear harder.
They're tight.
It's a tight rim. Yep. The balls are overinflated. There's not many balls that rattle in. Yeah. That's an advantage, Chris Beard, and another reason I think this is going to be a rock fight. So if Ole Miss can avoid foul trouble, especially Dre Davis and Malik Dia, the bigs that they actually have, force Michigan State out of the lane. Do not let them drive. They did a good job against Carolina not doing that. They did a good job against Iowa State not doing that. If they can pull that off, I do think they have the advantage in this game.
And where I see the Michigan State advantage is, and you don't have to look hard for it, you don't have to do a lot of squinting, it is going to be the rebounding margin here, because Ole Miss outside the top 300 in a few rebounding metrics, of course. And, well, it's not that Michigan State is a good rebounding team. They have been elite so far this season, especially on the offensive boards. And you saw it against Bryant. I'm not going to say that we would have, lost that game should they not have gotten so many second chance points, but that is what really extended their lead in that game and made it a comfortable last 10 minutes of that stretch. And this is hardly the only time they've done that so far this season. Like I said, the half-court offense, there are moments where it could be a little more desirable than what you're seeing. But what really helps is when you get 2 or 3 cracks at the hoop. And Michigan State is just an incredible offensive rebounding team. So that's where Michigan State easily sees an advantage there, just because, again, it's top 5 rebounding team versus a team outside the top 300. But again, weird things happen in March. We'll see if anything changes. But just right on the paper and with your eyeballs, that's where I see the advantage for Michigan State.
Yes, Ole Miss needs to keep the rebounding. They need to lose by 10 or less in the game.
That's fair. Yeah.
If they can lose, they lose by 10 or less, they can turn you over enough to get the possessions back. Yep. In the games against Florida, in the game that they got blown out at Auburn, it was like a 25 rebound disparity. It was a mauling. They got beat by Mississippi State. They got mauled on the boards by 20 rebounds. Vanderbilt got them. They mauled them on the boards by like 20 rebounds or something like that. So if Ole Miss can keep that rebounding disparity to about 10 or less, Iowa State was a big team too. It was something to where you thought that this rebounding thing was going to show itself. And at the beginning of the game, it absolutely showed itself. And Iowa State probably had 6 or 7 offensive rebounds before the first TV timeout. The rebounding margin in that game was Iowa State +4. Ole Miss was able to handle that fight on the boards. And whenever Ole Miss started kind of playing even on the boards with Iowa State, all of a sudden you saw a 20-2 run by Ole Miss against Iowa State, and that game was over.
Also, the hot shooting too from Ole Miss, and this is what I wanted to ask you about, because in the first 2 tournament games, Ole Miss, you guys are shooting, I believe it's 19 of 39 from behind the arc, which is like incredible. Might not be the most sustainable number, but it's not like you guys have been a bad shooting team all season. I believe you're humming around 34%, roughly 120th in the nation. But another possible advantage I see for Michigan State here is that they are top 5 in the nation at opposing 3-point percentage, and it's easy to see why they have the athletes on the outside, whether it's, your point guard, Jeremy Fears, or even outside of him, Jace Richardson, for as good as he can be offensively. He's that strong defensively, too. You tack on Trey Holloman and Jaden Akins. It is a really strong package on the perimeter there. Do you think that hot shooting is something you can sustain in this game, or are you a little worried about a slight dip here coming up in this one?
Oh, I'm worried about, like I said, just judging by the scores, I think the 3-point shooting is going to come down. The key in this game for Ole Miss is probably going to be Dre Davis and Malik Dia. It's not going to be Padula or any of the guards, because Michigan State's going to D those guards up. They just are. But D is a matchup problem. It doesn't matter who you are. Unless you're Janai Broome, it's a matchup problem. He's shooting threes. He's one of the more athletic players on the floor. He's 6'9", 260 pounds. He can play absolute bully ball.
Yeah.
Whenever that happens, that is how the extra pass can come up and the open 3-point shots can happen. They need to force Michigan State to help. If you can do that, find the open person, hit the open shots. They did not hit the open shots in the SEC tournament. That was the difference there. That probably cost them the Auburn game, not making 3-point shots in that game. But if they can do that, they're going to be in good shape. A lot of people don't realize about this Ole Miss team. They're like, oh, they've lost 3 games over the last month or so. Those 3 games are 2 games to Auburn and 1 to Florida.
Not bad.
That's those 3 games. Everybody else they've beaten. So I think it's going to be a war. And the teams that have been on the 2-seed line and below, I think Ole Miss is 2-0 against those teams on the 2-seed line. They're 1-0 on the 3-seed line. It's the ones that they had problems with this year. Auburn and Florida really kind of chewed them up. And like I said, Michigan State has the athleticism to do a rebounding number on this Ole Miss team. They absolutely do. No, not a single person will be surprised if Michigan State wins this game. But not a single person should be surprised if Ole Miss wins this game either.
Completely fair. Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up Malik Dia too. And also I want to rope in Jamin Brakefield, because those are 2 guys that I'm losing sleep over this week, because it's funny. Like, we are athletically gifted enough to be a really strong rebounding team, but also at the same time in the front court, like, you see Malik Dia. He, for his size, is incredibly comfortable putting the ball on the deck. He can play that booty ball, that bully ball, whatever you want to call it. And that's going to lead to kickouts or ISO scoring opportunities. I truly wonder who Michigan State can throw on him. Carson Cooper might be the best option, but if he gets into foul trouble or if it's just not working, are we just going to watch the Malik Diaz show, just go for 20 points and then just pray that, hey, that's not going to be enough in the second half? And then we'll also, right next to him, his potential running mate, Jamin Brakefield, our starting 4 guy, Jackson Kohler, fine rebounder, solid on offense, a little bit laterally, just not there defensively. So that'll be a big game for Cohen Carr. Hopefully he can limit what Brakefield can do defensively. But yeah, I feel fine with the guard-on-guard defense. I mean, that's not to say Sean Padula isn't white hot in these 2 tournament games, but it's those 2 guys down low in the front court that I'm just, my sleep hours are dwindling over here seeing on that matchup, Steven.
Yeah, and Chris Beard, everybody knows Chris Beard's an elite coach. And one of the ways that he proved he was an elite coach, the Tennessee Ole Miss game was kind of back and forth, a very defensive rock fight. Tennessee hit some shots. In the second half, Chris Beard just said, forget about it. Gave the ball to Jamin Brakefield on the Tennessee big, cleared out, and said, go one-on-one. And Jamin Brakefield went to 19 points in the second half. Ole Miss ended up winning the game.
There we go.
So that is something that seems like it would be worrisome. But the key in this game, in my opinion, honestly, is Matthew Morrell. Matthew Morrell, he guards the best player on the other team. He no matter who they played in the SEC, he was the guy guarding. He's 6'4", 6'5". But when offense matches his defense, whenever he has a game on shooting the ball, this offense almost becomes unstoppable. You have Iowa State, who's one of the better defensive squads in the entire country. They had no answer for Ole Miss in that game. And a lot of that was the fact that Matthew Morrell just provided another option to where there was nowhere you could help from. And it became a complete one-on-one game. And Ole Miss has the athletes to where they can take advantage of that situation.
Sure. Oh, man, I'm just ready to get this game over with. Quite frankly, I just need to see the ball actually be tipped in the air, and let's just speed run to the final horn. I hate this waiting game that we're on, Steven.
It should be nuts. Anyway, thanks again for watching this crossover for Locked On Spartans and Locked On Ole Miss. Steven Willis, Matt Sheehan. When we come back, we will get into how we see our team winning and our score predictions for the game. Stick around. No, we here at Locked On Ole Miss, we're all about the stats because numbers don't lie. And when it comes to the all-new Nissan Armada Pro 4X, the numbers are on an MVP level. With the ability to tow up to 8,500 pounds, it can literally carry the whole team, plus all the tiers of Iowa State, North Carolina fans, wherever you need to go. It's powered by a twin-turbo V6 engine, delivering the strength and performance to handle highways, back roads, and everything in between. And with room up to 8 people, the Armada Pro 4X is built for big crews, big adventures, and even bigger memories. Whether you're exploring off-road trails or rolling up to the arena, the Armada Pro 4X brings power, versatility, and style wherever you go. So take your adventures to new heights in the all-new Nissan Armada Pro 4X. Learn more at nissanusa.com.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Welcome back. Crossover edition of Locked On Ole Miss, Locked On Spartans. Matt Sheehan, Steven Willis. This game is the lowest odds game of all the Sweet 16 matchups. Michigan State right now on FanDuel is favored by 3.5 points. But coincidentally, Matt, I don't know if you know this, Ole Miss is getting the least bets of any team in the Sweet 16.
I just saw it before we started recording. That's
and that makes me think it's kind of a sucker bet. They're trying to bait people.
Yeah.
And in that, you see that happen a lot in football. There's always that one game that happens is like, okay, 90% of the money is on Texas, but they're going with Kansas State. And it's because Vegas knows something. So that makes me feel a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think this game, and Ole Miss can win this game very simply by turning this game into a true rock fight.
Yep.
Don't get into unnecessary foul trouble. Make this a half-court game. Make this a slow game, and don't give up transition. Luckily for Ole Miss, they kind of had a dry run and not giving up transition against North Carolina. They had that mindset already that worked. And in the second half, they were able to get a little transition. And that's how they were able to cut into that lead. But I think if you can make this a rock fight, play half-court offense and attack the basket, do not fall in love with the three-point shot. Try and get foul trouble on their bigs to kind of eliminate that rebounding advantage as much as you can. If you do that, you're going to be in good shape, because if you look at it, Michigan State's favored by 3.5 points. That's roughly a possession.
Yep.
And I think this game has that chance to be the game of the weekend.
Oh, I certainly do. It very well could be. Again, you have to like a certain genre of basketball. Like if you're looking for 89 to 90 game, you're going to have to tune into literally any other game this weekend. But for Michigan State to win this game, I do want to bring something that we haven't mentioned on this episode yet, and that is the free throw shooting for Michigan State, both good and bad. The good for us Spartans over here is that, well, Ole Miss fouls a ton. I think it's 21.8 free throw attempts for their opponents per game. That's up there. That's a lot. Okay, that's the good part. And you might say that, oh, well, man, I see that Michigan State's really good at shooting free throws. They're shooting it at 77.6%. What could you be worried about? Well, let me tell you, Steven. Let me tell you, Ole Miss fans. Let me tell you, my Spartan fans here. In the last 9 games, if you just take that sample size, 69% from the free throw stripe. At one point, we were at 80%. We were top 5 in the nation. But they started to come down from that number. And every game, you're just waiting for them to snap out of that. And every game, they are not snapping out of that. So they need to rally. They need to be who they were in the first few months of the season from the free throw stripe, because if we're going to get a lot of trips to the line here, which Michigan State showed they could do that in their last game against New Mexico and other parts of the season, make it count by making your free throws. I know it's ridiculous to boil it down to something that elementary, but with a game that could very well be in the 50s or the 60s, yeah, those 1 point at a time shots are going to come in handy here. So Michigan State, please just make your free throws. My God, don't make me throw my beer glass at the television today.
Them hard rims and overinflated basketballs also come into.
It's the basketballs that kill me. Oh God, who had the dunk attempt where the ball careened off the back of the iron so hard it almost went in the other hoop earlier in the tournament? Like, that's when I knew that these basketballs are pumped up to 80 PSI right now. What is going on with these things? So I fully buy into that conspiracy that something is up with the basketballs here. I think it's been happening last few tournaments, actually. But yeah, it's going to be tough. And also one other thing, too, I was thinking about earlier today is that, well, Michigan State has had a really nice streak. I think they've won 10 of their last 11 or whatever it is. Not a lot of these games are close at the finish line, Steven. Okay, like the one close game we had down the stretch, Wisconsin. Okay, that went to the Badgers. They won that game. We also had a really close game against Maryland. Won that game. Took a 60-foot shot from Trey Holloman at the buzzer to win that game, but it got a little sketchy there during closing time here. All these other wins, the game was pretty much in hand with 3-4 minutes to go. So I do wonder if this game gets tight, how it will go for Michigan State, because we don't have a ton of experience at that. And the recent experience we do, it's gotten a little squirrely here. So, God, I hope I've really just prepared Michigan State fans for this game today without completely horrifying them. But yeah, that's just how I see it. I would really like to see this game be like a 10-point difference with 3 minutes to go. That's not asking a lot, is it?
Yeah. Yeah. And I was going to say, teams have a hard time putting Ole Miss away. They can
perfect.
You can get it to 7. Mm-hmm. It is hard to get it past 7 for whatever reason. If you do, you have a chance to do what Auburn did, what like Florida did. Mm-hmm. But it is taking pretty special teams to get into double figures against Ole Miss. And Ole Miss has the ability to just kind of wear on you and chip away. And they're annoying. Yeah. They're nasty, all of that stuff. Yeah. Yeah. And next thing you know, you look up and there's 3 minutes to go in the game and they're down by 4 and you're like, we have dominated this game. How are they still in it? And that's kind of that's the Chris Beard experience.
And that can be Michigan State too. And that's more so of their depth as well. And not to say, it's not also the defense, which we talked about and everything, but their depth too. They go, it used to be 10 deep. Now in the tournament, they're going roughly 8.5 deep. We'll start our center, Simone Sapala. He'll play about 90 seconds and never see the court again in this game potentially. But still, like, that depth certainly wears on other teams, and it sounds like that, same situation there at Ole Miss.
Yeah, pretty good stuff. I'm going to go in this game. And remember, Michigan State fans and Ole Miss fans, it is 100% okay to have confidence in your team. And just because you pick one team to win doesn't mean you pick the other team to be terrible.
Nonsense.
That's the
No.
That's the way it works. But I think
Ole Miss team's horrible, right?
Yeah. Ole Miss is going to win this game 59-53. It's going to be a rock fight. It's going to be a 6-point win. It's going to be a Sean Padula 3-point shot under a minute that puts it away and turns it into a free throw game.
68-63, Michigan State. I will throw up 4 times. I will suffer 1 heart attack, but I think it's going to be one of those games where, Michigan State, they find themselves a 6-point lead with 5 minutes to go and do just enough to keep their head above water and advance to the next round, which I don't know if I'll be alive for, but who cares, quite frankly, at this point.
And the game tonight, BYU and Alabama, I'm looking forward to that because it might be 220 points in that game.
I was going to say, that will be 168-163.
It's going to be the opposite of the Ole Miss Michigan State.
That's the one that people are going to like watching. That's the enjoyable game.
Yeah, right? That's the one that's going to show up on One Shining Moment more than once, probably.
Certainly, yeah.
Should be pretty good. Anyway, Matt Sheehan from Locked On Spartans.
Yep.
Tell them what you got going on. If you have a reaction show after the game, tell people how you see your stuff, man.
Yeah, guys. So after this game, if Michigan State falls, we'll get on about roughly a half hour after. But if Michigan State is lucky enough to win, we're going to let the second game finish and then talk about, both games and what this is going to mean for the Elite Eight. Should we be fortunate enough to win that? So thanks for letting me shout that out, Steven.
Yes. People interested, we do an instant overreaction about 45 minutes after the game. Obviously, the Michigan-Auburn game, if Ole Miss wins, we'll have that on for 30 minutes talking about that. I'm sure a lot of people are probably Auburn fans in this chat right now watching this video, but we'll see how that goes. And if Ole Miss wins, expect a crossover on Saturday, just like we did with Matt, with either the Locked On Michigan host or Zach is going to come off paternity leave.
Look at him
to talk about. Yeah, he's just a machine. So should be a whole lot of fun.
Excellent, man. Hey, you know what? Best of luck, guys. If you guys win, best of luck the rest of the way. But hoping that it's a sad Friday night, just for 2 hours for you guys. I really like you, Steven, and I do like Ole Miss. You guys are a really fun team to watch in the fall. I've won a lot of money gambling on you guys. But God, I just really hope outside the 2 hours on Friday, you guys really enjoy the rest of your weekend, your lives.
Yeah. Same thing to you, buddy. And take care, and we'll talk to you later, man.
You got it.
Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves on offering the most comprehensive perspective, which is why we are the #1 Ole Miss podcast out there. Your support means the world to us. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen. For your second listen, check out Locked On College Basketball with Isaac Shade and Andy Patton. March is here, so be the most informed college basketball fan throughout the madness. Find Locked On College Basketball on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hotty toddy, everybody. And remember, analytics is just the old English word that means bad football. We'll talk to you tomorrow.